provides vocational rehabilitation, community living supports, home care services, brain injury services, assistive technology, broad range of services for people with a broad range of disability types. And so within that, our agency is the administrator of the federal AT Act funds. So we receive just about $500,000 a year in AT Act funds that we use for all of the state level and state leadership activities that we're required to do. Part of, under the state level, the reuse area, we actually have 4 different programs. There's the Get AT Stuff website, which is like the online swap and share, sort of Craigslist type of service. That is pretty robust. That's been working for a number of years now. We have a fair number, not as many transactions as we'd like, but a lot of postings, a lot of people who are aware of it, and it works pretty well. We have one full-time staff person called Nabani who oversees that particular service, and we have an additional part-time person who assists with the transactions that sometimes people run into problems. They can't connect with each other or they need help, so we help with that. Another reuse, you've heard from, or you will have heard from Tom Perry, who operates a durable medical equipment reuse program. We actually fund the Boston Center for Independent Living in Stavros with very small amounts of money to assist them with programs that they were already operating that reuse basically wheeled mobility, wheelchairs and scooters. And they've both been running those programs for many years, and we try to help out with some funding, especially to buy, batteries, things that need to be replaced. The long-term device loan program that's pretty new and has had some reuse of devices that have been out for loan for a year or two, and they've been returned and have now been able to be given to new people to reuse. And then our assistive technology school share program, which is probably it's one of the most interesting, I think, and it's been an interesting challenge in sort of the last couple of years to really get that going and get that off the ground. What caused us to start this program was an awareness really that their school districts and individual school systems are buying assistive technology for students. And then when the student leaves the school or they graduate or no longer need that particular device, these devices are sitting around, oftentimes collecting dust, and they might be scattered around a school or a school system, and people aren't necessarily real aware of what's there. Whether it's available, what its capabilities are, who it might, so connecting those devices up with potential new students coming in who could use them would seem to make a lot of sense. So we have been developing the system, building on this existing website that, and made a number of enhancements to the website and the system so that all the schools in Massachusetts are listed in the system, and we can help schools to register for the system and sign up, and we can show people how to do an inventory and get it listed up on the website. We received funding from the Shapiro Family Foundation, and that allowed us to contract with Northeastern University and also to bring in additional support, part-time support, to focus on the Boston area in particular and to work with local schools to try to get them signed on and using the system. So we worked for, and we actually just wrapped up that grant. We worked with Northeastern University with their physical therapy department. One of the professors there, Susan Ventura, is actually a member of our Assistive Technology Advisory Council. And so she works, this is a graduate PT program. So these are PT students who are working towards their doctorates. And as each of them is required to do a pretty lengthy project as part of their studies. So in the first year we had 2 students, and then in the second school year that just finished, we had 3 students who were working together. And they would actually, once they learned the system, they would actually go out into the schools. They would work with the school personnel, or sometimes on their own, to actually do the inventory of the devices. They would write down descriptions of them, take photographs, research information online, really do the whole inventory. And I think that that was pretty interesting for them. They said in some cases they would walk into that one school they went into and there was a class in session, and so they were trying to work around like the students and the pupils and the teacher to try to do this without disrupting things too much. Other places they would go and school personnel have organized and gathered everything into one room for them to do the inventory. So they met with some real sort of differences in approach. One of the things, it took longer than we expected to get the program, to get schools registered and to get them sort of doing the inventory. And what we discovered really in the first year and more so in the second is a number of issues. First of all was the name. We started off calling it AT School Swap, and we were really emphasizing the aspect of the program of being able to share devices. And what we learned was that a number of school people were reluctant to participate because they felt that there was an obligation, that if they signed on and wanted to use a device, they would have to give a device sort of in return. And they weren't too sure about making that commitment, so there was reluctance there. The other thing that we discovered is that school personnel are really strapped for time. And so anything that they thought was going to require additional time and effort on their part was just, they wouldn't really, oftentimes they wouldn't say no, but they'd say, oh yes, it sounds very interesting, I'll get back to you, and time would go by and they didn't. So that's when we really discovered that having the students available to go in and do the inventory for them, so all they had to do was basically sort of point them in the right direction, that made a big difference. And so as a result of that, it was really in the second year that we were able to get a lot more schools registered, a lot more schools who were opening their doors and letting the students come in and to do the inventory. In the last month before the students left school, I think there were 3 Fridays in a row they were going out to schools and doing inventory, and there were even a couple of other schools who wanted them to come, but they ran out of time. So it felt like it was building momentum. Part of it also was that for the early folks, when we would talk about the system, show them the website, there weren't devices already posted, so it was harder for them to sort of understand what the benefit would be to them. And now that there are devices posted up there and we're able to demonstrate how you can search for types of devices, it's easier to sell. It's easier to market.